Weekly Sports Talk with Ed, episode 35. Welcome, everybody. Get this. Y'all see the title. I'm going to be talking about the Knicks today. I don't think the Knicks are championship contenders. I think they're one of the. Yeah, y'all see the title. Not too high on the Knicks this season. And it's the only three teams in the NBA that I think are actual contenders for the NBA championship this season. Obviously, the Cavs and Celtics played last night. They split the season series now. The Cavs first in the East, the best 3-point shooting team in the league. A lot of people don't know if it's sustainable. The Cavaliers are a really great team. They play great defense. They have a same net rating, have a really good offense. It's like with Donovan Mitchell, he had 41 last night in that game against Boston. Tatum had 46. It was a really great game. And all four of the games they played, it was a lot. It was a lot different because it's like you had the one time where the Cavs almost came back, but they weren't able to do it. Then they lost by a few points. Then you had this game where they do complete the comeback. They were down 22 in the first quarter, come all the way back and win the game. So I think like the Cavs and Celtics, even though they shoot a lot of threes, I think the Celtics rely on it more heavily. But Jason Tatum is a superstar player, and Jaylen Brown, he's great as well. Like this is likely going to be the conference finals match that we see. Like they done played 4 great games in the regular season, split it 2-2. Like I'd love to see this in the conference finals, go 7 games because I think that'd be a really entertaining series. But back to the Cavaliers, get them a little bit more light. They're 6 or 7 games ahead of the Celtics now for the first seed in the East, and they've already clinched a playoff spot. So like it's hard for me to doubt this team with Evan Mobley playing at a defensive player of the year caliber level. Like Evan Mobley could very well be, he could win defensive player of the year with Wemby being out for the rest of the year. It's gonna come down to him or Jaren Jackson, in my opinion. You could throw Luke Dort in that race as well. You could even throw Dyson Daniels in there. Like it's wide open now with the unfortunate situation with Wemby being out for the rest of the year. But I think Evan Mobley, he's been the second best defender in the league behind Wemby. So him winning it with how great Cleveland's been this year, I could definitely see Evan Mobley win the Defensive Player of the Year. And then you got Jared Allen, who's great. And if you remember last year, Allen was out in the playoffs because he had a rib injury. I think he played a few games, but he didn't play too much because of his rib injury. But if this team is at full strength, they can definitely make a run. Donovan Mitchell, like I said, he's great. Him and Garland, they had really good games last night. And obviously the Cavs started slow. They were missing early, but they stayed in it. They didn't give up. They was able to make a 22-point comeback. And they was able to pull off the win, like I said. Despite Jason Tatum, he had a 30-point first half. The Celtics, they're still really good. Like I know they haven't been shooting the same way they were last year, but the Celtics can still make a run. Like and Peyton Pritchard, he was off last night, but on a usual night, Peyton Pritchard is going to be hitting them shots. With him coming off the bench and the scoring that he provides, Peyton Pritchard is really nice. You could even put Pritchard in the 6 man of the year conversation for this season because that's how good he's been. Like the Celtics have still been really good this season, and obviously every team has their bad losses. But I think the Cavs and Celtics have both lost to the Atlanta Hawks. But it's like it's gonna be hard for anybody to beat these teams in the playoffs unless it's them going up against each other. Like with the 3-point shooting, the shooters they have on their teams, the stars they have leading them. Like you got Jason Tatum, who I think is a superstar player, like I said, and I don't know what. And I think Jason Tatum has made his way into the MVP conversation. I think Shea should be the MVP this season, but Tatum definitely has an argument at this point in the season. But yeah, and then OKC also, I think they're a contender. I think OKC is the only team in the West that I trust if they're fully healthy. Now Chet Holmgren went out, and Hardenstein, I know he was dealing with something, but it's all about their biggest thing is they should have got somebody like the Cam Johnson at the trade deadline. I wish they would have did that. The team is still solid. Like they had the 2 games against the Timberwolves, which they ended up splitting, and obviously, the Timberwolves didn't have Rudy in those games, but Jaden McDaniels, he was able to take over one of those games. It's like, okay, see, even though they lost those games, like you have to have those type of losses to, because you got to deal with adversity throughout the season. So obviously, it's going to be real stretches. But with Shea, when he was facing those double teams, he had Jada, but it's like after him, who's going to step up if Chet isn't there? It becomes a problem when it's like if you don't have Chet or Hardenstein, which is why you should have. That's why I wish they would have contacted the Nets, or if they did, I wish they would have been able to get Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson, because they wouldn't have to give up a lot, and it would have helped the team a lot. Because obviously, Cam Johnson can shoot, and he averaged about 10 points per game, and then Nick Claxton, he can play some defense, and he'll give you another body with Chet and Hardenstein dealing with injuries this season. But I think OKC, the Cavs, and Celtics are the only legit championship contenders. There's other teams in the league that can make deep runs, but I don't think they're championship caliber teams. Like I think OKC, Boston, and Cleveland, they have everything necessary to win a championship. Like Cleveland, they have phenomenal defense when led by the potential defensive player of the year. You have a great offense led by Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. You upgraded their coach, getting Kenny Atkinson. And then shout out to JB Bickerstaff because he's been doing his thing with the Pistons. But Kenny Atkinson has shown to be a better coach than what JB Bickerstaff was. But JB Bickerstaff has also proven I'm a good coach because I'm good enough to do this with the Pistons. But Kenny Atkinson is showing that I'm a great coach. So it's like they got rid of a good coach to get a great coach and it paid off for the better. And then they're shooting at a historical rate. Like they're having a really phenomenal season because nobody was expecting this. Like a lot of people, they knew the Cavs would be a playoff team, like around the 4 or 5 range again. That's what we expected. But them being a 1 seed, like I don't think many people expected that. Probably not even half of the Cavs fan base expected them to do that. So, and I think this team, the only team that can beat them is Boston, and I think the only team that can beat Boston is the Cavs. Because Boston, like I said, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, you got Derek White and Drew Holiday as your perimeter defenders. Like it's gonna be hard getting past that. And obviously, like I said, the Cavs and Celtics split the season series. That's why I'm saying we need 7 more games of that in a playoff series. It'll be really fun, and each matchup will be different, just like it was. Like you just sometimes the teams they play each other and the result is the same. Like the score might be different, but you have the same outcome. That's not what it is with the Cavs and Boston. These matchups are so different, but how they game plan against each other. So I love to see that in a playoff series in the conference finals to determine who gets to the finals. And then OKC, like I said, I don't think it's a team in the West that can challenge them if they're at full strength. That's the only thing that scares me about OKC. Obviously, they went out to Dallas last year, but I think Dallas was a deeper team last year. Because I had predicted Dallas to go to the finals once the playoffs was set. And Dallas had the deepest team in the West. That's why I predicted them to go to the finals. But I think OKC, like their depth improved with them having Alex Caruso, and he's going to get hot at times and he's going to be cold at moments. We've seen it in both Timberwolves games. But it's like you have the defense of Alex Caruso, who's a great defender. And it's like, it's going to be hard to get past OKC. Like Memphis, I think the Grizzlies are a really great team. You could, like I said, you can throw Jaren Jackson in the defensive player of the year race. But I think that Desmond Bain hasn't been at his best, and John Moran has missed some time. But I haven't watched a lot of the Grizzlies this season, so I don't want to speak too much about the Memphis Grizzlies. Because obviously these teams I'm speaking on, I've watched them a lot this season. And I've watched a decent amount of Grizzlies games, but I don't think I watched enough to say that they can't do certain things. Like I think they could very well make a deep run. But if they played a team like the Golden State Warriors in the first round who have caught fire, then I could see Golden State winning that series. And it's not anything against Memphis. I just think with the experience factor and Steph, like this is, like you don't know when Steph is going to retire. He's extra motivated. Jimmy Butler in a new situation. And this team, they've been hot. Like I think the Warriors could get to the second round depending on who they play in the first round. I don't think they're a championship team. The same with the Lakers. I don't think they're a championship team, but they can make runs based off of number one, experience, and number two, being led by Steph and LeBron. That always gives you a chance, especially late into their careers. But yeah, like I said, the Knicks The Knicks aren't contenders, and it's for multiple different reasons. They're third in the Eastern Conference right now. They are 39 and 23rd in the East. They won back-to-back games, but I don't think this team can contend at all. I don't think they can contend for a championship. I like Jalen Brunson. I like Karl Anthony Towns, but I don't think Thibodeau is the right coach to help this team win a championship. And that's not a knock on Tom Thibodeau. Like, he's a good coach, but I don't know. He's not a great coach, the great coach that he used to be in the past. See, out of the top 20, the Knicks have 3 players in the top 20 with minutes per game. No other team has more than 2. There's other teams that have 2 players. Like, I think Kevin Durant and Booker are both on there for the Suns. And like the Kings have 2 players up there as well. There's multiple teams that have 2 players, but the Knicks have the most players in the top 20 minutes per game. They have 3. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart. And those 3 guys are their workhorse guys. And there's been times when Mikal Bridges, this looks like, and we know Mikal Bridges is the ultimate Iron Man. Like, he plays every game. But at a certain point, with how much he's playing, he's going to get overworked at some point, and he might end up being hurt. OG Anunoby, we obviously seen him have injury problems. The same with Josh Hart. He was out for a little stretch. But them playing so many minutes a game, they're all playing more than Brunson and Cat, who are their superstars. Like, it's important to have good role players, and that's what they are. But it's like, it's that they're playing a lot, and they shouldn't be playing as much as they are. And they're winning their games by an average of 5 points, so they're in a lot of close games. Just had a close game with the Grizzlies last night, which he ended up winning. I think OG Anunoby hit the game winner, if I'm not mistaken. But your 3 of your 5 starters, and all their starters are averaging 30 minutes per game, and 3 of your 5 starters are top 20 in minutes per game, while no other team has more than 2 players on that list. So it's like, your guys are playing a lot because this team isn't super deep. Like, after you get past OG, Mikal, Josh Hart, then obviously they come after Brunson and Cat, who have been your superstars, who have been great this season. But then even in the playoffs, like, I think Cat was decent last year, but can he replicate that this year in the playoffs? Because we know he's great in the regular season, and he's taken a jump from what he was last year. But will he be able to do what he did in the playoffs last year, but take it up a notch? Like, obviously, we know Cat is somebody who hasn't been that great in the playoffs, but he was solid last year. So can he be solid again in the playoffs? We don't know. Jalen Brunson, I think he's a 1, but I don't think this team is deep enough because obviously he took the pay cut so they could have OG resign and they could have Mikal on the team, so it made sense. But it's like, this team, they're still not deep enough. Mitchell Robinson, he's a good backup big, but you got to be worried about him with the injury history. Because if he goes out, then who's there to back up Karl Anthony Towns if he goes out with if he's in foul trouble or something like that? And then the Knicks' record against the top 3 teams in the NBA, they're 0-7. They were 12 by OKC. They lost the first game they played against OKC. They lost by 25. They got embarrassed. The second game they lost by 10, but it was not as close. It was not as close as the score entails. They lost 117 to 107, but that game was not close for the majority of it. So they were embarrassed in the 2 games they played against OKC. And the games against the Cavs, the first game they played against the Cavs, lost by 6. Competitive game, they had a chance. The Cavs just a better closing team. The second game they played against the Cavs, and I think they had one more. I don't think their season, yeah. Well, obviously their season series isn't wrapped up because it's 2 Eastern Conference teams, but I'm not sure if they played 3 or 4 times. I think it's 3. But their second game, the Cavs embarrassed them, win by 37. Now, it was on a back-to-back, but that's still an embarrassing loss. Like, that's the team. Like, you want to rest some of your guys, and I forget who they played on the first night of that back-to-back, but you should rest some of your guys on that first night, because obviously Hart and OG, they was coming back from some injuries. So you have Brunson sit out that first game and have him ready for that second back-to-back, even though it's not hurt, just because that matchup versus Cavs is more important, because that's a win that you need. Like, they lost that game by 37. That's a bad look. And they were terrible in that game. And then the 3 games they played against the Celtics, they lost all 3 of those games by double digits. They lost by 13, lost by 27, and they lost by 33. So not a single one of those games against the Celtics were close. That's embarrassing for a team that's supposed to have championship aspirations. Brunson took a huge pay cut to get other guys on this team to help make the team better. But it's like you can't beat any of the top teams. You can't beat the top two teams ahead of you in the East that are both looking like championship contenders. Excuse me. Can't beat either one of them. And you can't beat OKC, who's the top team in the West. So it's like I'm having a hard time believing that this team can actually compete for a championship. Like, this team is not a contender in my eyes. Like, obviously they got the wins against the Grizzlies, and those are impressive wins, but I look at the Grizzlies as a team that they can make a run. I don't see them as a championship contender. I don't see a world where the Cavaliers and Celtics aren't the conference finals matchup. Unless something drastic like an injury or something happens, it's no world where that's not the conference finals matchup. And it's unfortunate because Brunson took this huge pay cut to improve this team. It's like this team still has some holes, and it's number one, I think it's the bench. I think you need to improve your bench. You still got Miles McBride, who is solid. I like him. Mitchell Robinson, I do like, but he has injury history. And after that, I'm having a hard time trying to think of who else is on the team. But this team is a solid team. They play good defense. But their top guys are playing a lot of minutes. And in the playoffs, if you're 7 deep, you don't have an eighth, you're not 8 or 9 deep. Like, it's gonna be hard to win with them playing all those minutes. I could see they're more than likely going to the second round. I could see them getting that far. But that's as far as I see the Knicks getting. I think that's their ceiling. Their ceiling is second round, and their floor is first round exit. Like, if they were to, I don't think this is gonna happen because the Pistons have been rolling. But if the Pistons were to stay at 6 and play the Knicks in the first round, I would have confidence taking the Pistons in that series. And that's not even to be funny, but like they have experience. Not that they have experience specifically, but like you have J.B. Bickerstaff, who is a good coach who has been here to the playoffs multiple times. You have a Cade Cunningham, who I think he's going to shine bright in his first playoff series. Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris have been here before, so they have provided a little bit of experience. But I think it'll definitely go 6 or 7, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Pistons beat them. But I think the Pistons are going to move up. I think they're going to be in the form. They're going to be a part of the 4 or 5 matchup. And the Pistons, I think the Pistons get into the second round this year. But as far as championship contenders go, Celtics, Cavs, and OKC. Knicks, I don't even think they can make a deep run with the roster that they have, as talented as it is. Then the Pistons, I think they can surprise some people. I got the Giannis jersey on, but I don't think the Bucks are contenders either. Like Bobby Portis being out, it hurts their bench production a lot. And I've been trying to watch the games without him, and it's really bad. Like Giannis is great, great player, Dame great, but it's like that team still isn't super deep, especially with Bobby Portis being out. And I hate how he was suspended for something that wasn't even his fault. He should have got 5 games max. 25 is kind of ridiculous. But I don't think this team can go far. Just like they have Giannis, yeah, but you need a bench to win games, and they don't have that. And Doc Rivers isn't a great coach either. He's good, but he's not great. That's what's going to separate some of these teams. Like, you're in a matchup versus good versus great coaches. Like, if the Pacers and Bucks match up again in the first round, I'd probably take the Pacers in that series. Because I don't think that, even though the Bucks had a more talented team, I think that Rick Carlisle would outcoach Doc Rivers. And not that Doc Rivers is bad, it's just he's not what he used to be as a head coach. Then as far as the West teams go, like I said, OKC, I see it's a contender. The Lakers and Warriors, based off the fact that they have LeBron and Steph and that they're rolling right now, like they can make some runs. They could get to the second round, but I don't see them going super far. Because I think it's still some problems that they have, both teams. But in Memphis, I can see them making a deep run. Now, Minnesota is a team that could give OKC some trouble if they match up in the first round. And not just based off the regular season games that they had. Because obviously, like the Hawks, they beat the Cavs and Celtics in the regular season. But obviously, they get smoked in the playoffs. But I think Minnesota will have a legit chance against OKC. I wouldn't pick them over OKC, but I think it'll be at least 6 games. Like, I don't think Minnesota, or it'd be a close 5. Like, Minnesota would definitely keep up with the top teams. Like, Minnesota should be better than what they are with Anthony Edwards. And I didn't realize he had so many texts. So he definitely got to calm down before that 1 game suspension get a little longer. But and Dave McDaniels, if he keep playing the way he's been playing recently, I think they could be a solid. I think they could upset somebody in the first round. But that's it for the Knicks being fried. The other stuff I had to talk about in the NBA, because I'm going to get into some other stuff later when I go into athletes of the week. But now moving on to some NFL stuff. Draft coming up soon. So I'm just talking about each position, or each position that these teams should go after. I'm gonna start with the Bills. I think they should get a defensive back. I think that's what hurt them in the playoffs against Mahomes and the Chiefs. I think they go with a defensive back that's really gonna help their team. I know some people probably think a receiver, but I think and shout out to Khalil Shakir. He just got paid a nice contract for him. Keon Coleman, I think by his third year, he's gonna be one of those guys. I think he's gonna be really good. But yeah, I think they should just go after a defensive back in this draft. Some of these teams, they don't have to go too crazy in the draft, because it's like a lot of stuff you can probably get in free agency. For the Dolphins, I went with an offensive tackle. I don't think I watched a lot of Dolphins games last year, but I think they could definitely improve the offensive line, help out Tua a little bit. Hopefully Tua can stay healthy, because I do like Tua as a quarterback. I think he gets a lot of hate because for really no reason. And it's always used, oh, he should retire, this and that comments. But you don't hear that about Chris Olave, who also has a lot of concussions. And I like Chris Olave, but I like comparisons. I like comparing things, and it's funny how we call for somebody like Tua to retire, but we don't do the same for Chris Olave. Like the same energy should be kept. But the Jets, obviously they're gonna need a quarterback, because with Aaron Rodgers leaving, Devontae Adams leaving, you still gonna have Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, so you still have some solid skill position players, but you're gonna need a quarterback to get the ball to Garrett Wilson, because I don't know who their backup is. But yeah, the Patriots, wide receiver, easy. They probably won't be able to get Travis Hunter, but they can get McMillan, who's really nice. I think they definitely need a receiver. Drake May is solid. Drake May had a solid rookie season. I think if you give him some receiver help, they'll be decent next year. They won't make the playoffs, but they'll definitely make a jump. And then by year 3 of Drake May, they'll be a playoff contender team for sure. The Chiefs, I think they should get an edge rusher, because obviously the Chiefs, they had a great season. They were able to get to the Super Bowl. I think the hate and whatever that Patrick Mahomes got was unwarranted, because it's like, you can't win all the time. He's been in 5 Super Bowls already, and he was drafted in 2017. It's like he's 3-2 in the Super Bowl. So that's impressive, no matter how you want to look at it. Like most guys aren't able to beat Patrick Mahomes led teams. Like who I'm talking about in the playoffs. It's just Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, and Jalen Hurts that have been able to beat Tom Brady in the playoffs. That have been able to beat Patrick Mahomes and led teams in the playoffs. So it's like, not many guys beat his teams come playoff time. But I think they could definitely improve the defense. Chris Jones was great, but if he has moments where he goes out, or obviously he had the contract stuff early or maybe that was last year, but it was a time where he got hurt in the Super Bowl game, one of the playoff games. And I think you could definitely use an edge rusher to help that defense a little bit. For the Chargers, I think Will Dissly is okay, but you could definitely improve your tight end. Like, I don't know who's the top tight end this year, but I think they should go after a tight end at some point in the draft. Because Will Dissly had a disaster class in the playoffs. So did Herbert. The Chargers team in general was pretty bad. Lad McConkey was, and I'm talking about in the playoffs, but Lad McConkey, he was really great. But they definitely need to get a tight end to upgrade over Will Dissly. For the Broncos, they're going to need a running back. Like, I don't know what pick they have, but they're able to get Cam Scabito. They should. If Cam Scabito is on the board, the Broncos should draft him. Because Devontae Williams is solid, but they haven't had a 100-yard rusher in like 2 or 3 years, basically, at this point. And I think you get Cam Scabito, he'll be really great with this team. Like, you got Bo Nix, you got Marvin Mims, Portland Sutton. This team is actually pretty entertaining to watch. And if you get a running back, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what pick they have, but Cam Scabito, he'll be a great pick for them. That'll be the perfect pick for the Broncos for them to get a running back. Because the defense, that's already there. You have your quarterback. Your receiver core is decent. You will probably add somebody else in free agency. So you should target a running back in the draft. far as the Raiders, they need now. Brock Bowers had a really great season, and he was playing with one of the worst quarterback rooms imaginable. So that's exactly what they need, a quarterback. Because Brock Bowers had a good season. Even Jacoby Myers was pretty decent. He was with the Patriots before he came to the Raiders, and he was decent there. So I don't think Jacoby Myers is bad by any means, but he's not a one. I think you definitely need to try to get a receiver in free agency. Now, and it's Las Vegas at the end of the day, so it shouldn't be too hard to try to get somebody to come there. But it's just about the direction of the team, and if they can get a quarterback, they should be targeting a quarterback in the draft. I'm pretty sure they have one of the higher picks in the draft, but they need a quarterback to get that ball to Brock Bowers to get it to Jacoby Myers. Because once you have a real quarterback, this team will actually be fun to watch. Like Brock Bowers kept hitting, like he made people stay and watch their games, but it's like at the end of the day, even then, it's hard to watch the Raiders games because if the ball not getting to Brock Bowers, who really cares? The Ravens, I think they go receiver. They really have everything that they need right now. Obviously, Mark Andrews is likely gone, but they are likely he's going to fit in great as the tight end one if he gets that opportunity. It would just make sense. He was really good last year, and I think he's going to be really solid especially if Andrews leaves. And you still have Derrick Henry as a running back. You're going to have Zay Flowers and year 3 is Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Nelson Aguilar. You need to replace Aguilar. Like you can get rid of him for something on defense. You could do that. And if you could trade Aguilar for a defensive player somehow, try to make that happen, and then get a wide receiver 3 in the draft, like somebody you feel confident that'll fit in. Like it won't take them too long to adjust. I think that's what the Ravens should target in the draft. Get a wide receiver 3. I don't think that you're going to after any big names get a 1. Because I think Zay Flowers is fine as the wide receiver 1 in Baltimore. It's just about him being healthy when he needs to be. Because that was the only problem. Like I think if he was healthy, that game changes a little bit. I don't know if it changes entirely. Like it gets them to win. Because obviously the turnovers still happen. But it definitely changes a little bit. Because I don't think Zay Flowers did have his moment in the playoffs last year where he had to fumble. But I don't know if that happens again back-to-back years. For the Steelers, they need a quarterback. Like Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are likely gone. So you need a young quarterback, which you haven't had in a minute. And I don't think Justin Fields wants to stay there, even though he is a young quarterback. But he was having a great season. Then Russ came back and he was immediately inserted into the starting lineup. I think Justin Fields want to go somewhere where he knows that he's going to be the starting quarterback. And I think Justin Fields proved a lot of people wrong. He just needed more time to show it because he wasn't getting the time. He had 6 solid games and they were 4-2 with him. But then once Russ was back from his injury, it was like, oh man. So yeah, the Bengals, they got to do everything they can to improve this defense. They should take a cornerback in the draft. Like that defense was terrible last year, so they need to do anything they can to improve it. The Browns, they obviously gonna need a quarterback. Deshaun Watson isn't what he used to be, and he won't be that anyways because he's gonna be coming back from an injury probably midway in the season. Dorian Thompson-Robinson or Jameis Winston's not gonna do it. DTR is just bad, and Jameis Winston is fun to watch, but he's not good. He's peak entertainment, but he's not a good quarterback. That's what it is at the end of the day. For the Texans, I would go offensive tackle because they were getting CJ Stroud a lot in that Chiefs game. I'll go offensive tackle to improve the offensive line a little bit because I think, and then you're banking on your receivers being healthy because obviously you don't expect Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell to both be hurt the same year. Nico Collins was out a little bit too. So it's like it's unlikely that all 3 of them be hurt at different points next year. So I think you could stay pat with your team. And Joe Mixon was a great addition for them. So the Colts, I would also go offensive tackle. But yeah, I didn't watch too many Colts games. Anthony Richardson is a hard watch. I do like Michael Pittman Jr. They probably should improve their quarterback position, but they'll probably get that through free agency or through a trade. because I don't think they'll be able to find the quarterback in the draft, at least not with the picks they have. Jaguars, I'll go wide receiver. I still think Trevor Lawrence is decent. I'm not sure who's coaching now. Doug Peterson wasn't that bad, but they had to get rid of him, I guess. But I'll go with a receiver for the Jaguars. Because Gabe Davis, he's cool, but he's not going to be a one. Now, Brian Thompson was really good, but I don't think, I'm trying to think of who's free. Can't really think of one. So I think the draft is where you target the three, because Brian Thomas is going to quickly become the one after the phenomenal season he had. Gabe Davis will be back to being a two, even though he went there with intentions to being the one. That's not happening. But I take receiver on the Jaguars. Then for the Titans, obviously they're going with a quarterback. And they had a first pick, if I'm not mistaken. If they trade away the first pick and don't get a like a high level quarterback, that'd be dumb. You had a first pick, keep it and take Cam Ward. It would make the most sense. Take Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. I think Cam Ward is the better quarterback, but Shedeur Sanders is going to be going in the top 5 as well. So I don't think you can go wrong with either one. For my Eagles, I'll go with an edge rusher. Now we're in talks to get Myles Garrett, so we might not even need that. But I just take an edge just to be on the safe side to improve the defense. For the Commanders, they should take an offensive lineman, improve the line a little bit. Obviously, the Eagles got to Jaden Daniels a lot in that playoff game. So that's what I'll go with. I'll go with a lineman for them. The Cowboys, they had a nice pick. I think they'd be dumb not to pick Ashton Jeanty. He's the best running back in this class. One of the best over the last few years, actually. So if they don't go with Jeanty, then it would just be a dumb move. And if somebody before the Cowboys get Jeanty, then they're smart. Even if they have a running back, that's a smart move to make because you just took the most talented running back in the draft class. For the Giants, give my man Malik Neighbors some help. Malik Neighbors is amazing. He need a real quarterback throwing him the ball. The Giants need a quarterback. The Rams, they just re-signed Matthew Stafford. They got a restructured deal. But if I'm the Rams, I'll take a quarterback. Because at the end of the day, you don't know how much longer Matthew Stafford got. He in his late 30s, so he's not going to be there forever. So I definitely take a quarterback if I'm the Rams. For the Seahawks, another team I think they should take a quarterback. Obviously, Geno Smith is still solid. He's been good, but you don't know how much longer he has either. So I take a quarterback to be on the safe side so he can learn. The Seahawks and Rams are in the same situation. I feel like they need a quarterback to learn, to be behind Stafford and Geno so they can learn from him, like how Jordan Love learned from Aaron Rodgers. And then once they retire or once they leave Geno and Stafford, whoever their backup is, they can come in, fit right in, and they can lead their team to a solid 7-10 season or 8-9 year, where it's like the team wasn't great and didn't make the playoffs, but they showed flashes and they were able to show you they can lead the team to wins. That's what it's about, I feel like. The Cardinals, didn't watch much of them last year, but I'll go with an edge rusher. I think they can improve the defense. The 49ers, they had injuries everywhere, so it's hard to pinpoint what exactly they need, but I'll go to defensive tackle. I think that'll be a good pick for them. The Lions, obviously, with Aiden Hutchinson being out, made things rough on the defense. And then they got embarrassed in the playoffs against the Commanders. I wish Aiden Hutchinson was healthy because I was really hoping he was going to win Defensive Player of the Year. But I think the Lions should go with a defensive tackle. I think that'll be the best move for them to make. For the Vikings, I will go with a running back. Aaron Jones is nice, but I'm not sure how old he is, but I'll go with a running back just to be on the safe side to improve that team. Improve your offense. I think the defense was still good, but I did expect them to lose in that playoff game. I just didn't think they had the quarterback necessary to win a playoff game. Because I don't think Sam Darnold is that great. He's a good quarterback. He had a good season, but he's historically been a bad quarterback. He had one good season. So I'm not going to overhype Sam Darnold off of one good season. But I think the Vikings should take a running back. Now for the Packers, this gets interesting because they had one of the deepest receiver rooms, and I like it. And I praise the receiver room because of how diverse it is. Because you never know who's going to go off one night. Like Romeo Doubs might go off or one night. Then the next week is Christian Watson, who had 7 catches and 100 yards. Like they're so diverse, and then they have a solid tight end room. But I think I'll go to receiver. I think the Packers should try to find a true wide receiver one, because I do like the idea of having a diverse receiver room, but it hasn't gotten me nowhere the last 2 years. Like they upset the Cowboys last year, then they lost to the Eagles this year. I would go after receiver one if they can find that in the draft. That's what I do on the Packers. For the Bears, solid roster. Caleb Williams is nice. He just needs some more time. I don't think a lot of people try to talk bad about Caleb Williams because of his rookie season, compare him to other guys. You got to give it time. He's still a rookie at the end of the day. He's going to be entering his second season. I would draft the offensive lineman to help that team improve, to help the offensive line, because Caleb did make some bad decisions, but the offensive line still wasn't great. It improved, but it wasn't amazing or what it should be. The Buccaneers, same situation as the Rams, Seahawks. I would go quarterback because Baker Mayfield is nice, but he's aging. He's getting up there. So I have a backup. I draft a quarterback so he can learn from Baker, who's great. And then you should probably either quarterback or receiver because you also don't know how long Mike Evans has either. So you can get a quarterback and a receiver in the draft. I think that's you should find your pair for the future. And I think that'd be really solid for the Buccaneers if they can do that. The Atlanta Falcons, I legit wrote down on my notebook anything. Because I can't even pinpoint why Atlanta's so bad. Like Atlanta was supposed, a lot of people expected Atlanta to be a playoff. Let me not say a lot, but with the moves that Atlanta made, people were expecting them to be a playoff team. I'm one of those people that was expecting, oh, this team can win 10 games and make the playoffs. They can get in there as a 7 team, or they can even win a division because of how weak it is. But the Falcons, they just legit need anything because it's so hard to pinpoint where it's so bad at. Because it's like you have Kirk Cousins and he's not working out, so then Michael Penix starts playing because you sign the quarterback, then you draft one, so it's like he can learn from behind them. Then it's like you have Drake London, but he's super inconsistent. Like he might have 7 catches, 98 yards one week. Next week he's 2 catches, 14 yards. He's too inconsistent. Then your running backs, Bijan, he had a really good season. I think he made a Pro Bowl. If he didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he did. Like Bijan had a really good season. But it's like outside of Bijan Robinson, where the positives at? I mean, Kyle Pitts was solid. He was better than he was last season, so it continues to improve. But outside of them two, where the positives really at? Jesse Bates, I felt like had a really great season. But it's like I'm trying to see, like this team can really use anything to help improve this team because it's so bad. Like draft, I don't know. The Falcons are a weird team. The Panthers, I would go defensive tackle. The Panthers are a team. They need some help a little bit of everywhere. But I will either go offensive lineman or defensive tackle or edge rusher. Then for the Saints, I would go to wide receiver. Because I don't think Kellen Moore is going to be great as the Saints coach. I expressed this last week. I think Kellen Moore is going to be exposed as a head coach. But I will go receiver. But that's each position players I named that I think each NFL team should go for in the draft. Really just wrote down positions and some names I can remember off the top of my head, but I don't know who has what picks, but Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Ashton Genty, Cam Scabito, Cam Ward, Shador Sanders. This is a really good draft class. Next NFL season, I think it's going to be the races for the Rookie of the Years. I think it's going to be really competitive. And but yeah, I'm excited for next NFL season. There's a lot of good players in this draft class. But moving on to some bowling. The PBA Hallman Doubles is tomorrow, March 2nd. And the first matchup is obviously they do the step ladder each time. The 5 and 4 is Sean Rash and Matthew Ogle. I don't know too much about either one of these guys, but I think they're losing because the first matchup is them against the 4 seeded team, which is Tim Floyd Jr. and Kevin McCunn. And I really just know about Matthew and Tim Floyd. Those are the only 2 I know about, and they facing each other. But I think Tim Floyd Jr. and I think him and Kevin, I think they're gonna win that first matchup and move on. But it's gonna be competitive. It might be competitive because usually when it's guys that I don't know about, that's when it's the most competitive. I don't know much about Sean Rash. I have seen Matthew Ogle play a few times, but it's the first doubles finals of the year, so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. And then the team at one, that's just we'll get to that in a second. The three seed, Patrick Dombrowski and Bailey uh, Maverick. I think they lose to Tim Ford and Kevin McCunn. I think Tim Ford and Kevin McCunn they win their first two matchups, but I don't know if that one's gonna be too competitive. But I see Tim Ford. I see him carrying and getting them to that third matchup against DJ Archer and Sean Ladano. But I think DJ Archer and Sean Ladano, I think they win that one. That's two, then go to the finals to face the one seed of Jason Belmont and Bill O'Neill. That's a crazy team. Having to face them, whoever faces them in the finals in the doubles, I think they're screwed. Because I think whatever happens, Jason Belmont and Bill O'Neill win this tournament. I don't see a world where they lose. If they lose, I'd be very surprised. And if they do lose, I'd show respect to whoever beat them. But them being the one seed, like that is one of the most powerful bowling duos you could ever put together. And I think Jason Belmont and Bill O'Neill, they're winning that with ease, whoever they face in the finals. But once I get done watching it, I'm gonna post a short about it. I probably won't see it live because I'll probably be busy. But after they post after Fox Sports posted on YouTube, then I'll do the short recapping what happened as I always do. But that's it. That's a little preview of that. Like I said earlier, y'all see the title. The Pro Volleyball Federation is making history. It's only the second season of the Pro Volleyball Federation, and they just had their first ever All-Star game, which aired on CBS. That's just an incredible milestone. Shout out to the Pro Volleyball Federation, also known as the PVF, having these and just expanded, added another team this year after having a successful first year, doing some great stuff on YouTube and via TV. They're moving on to bigger networks, and they just had their first regular season game on FS1 in just the second year of existence. So it's like, shout out to them because that's such history being made, them being able to be on the Pro Volley on CBS and FS1 after starting on YouTube and Vibe TV. And they still do the games on YouTube, so people that don't have cable or whatever can see the games. So that's really dope. You can go to their site, check out all the stats, the league leaders and stuff. So it's really great that they're making history. These women are finally getting the opportunity to play in the United States instead of having to go overseas for pro volleyball leagues. And there's multiple other pro volleyball leagues now in the USA that have started up. On the Pro Volleyball Federation is the one I'm keeping up with that I know actual stuff about. But it's other leagues I'm pretty sure that I've heard of, and they're doing nice things. So just congratulations to all the women that finally got their dreams of being able to stay in the USA and play volleyball and not having to go overseas. Because it's great for them. It's great for them to have that stay at home and play volleyball. It's something they grew up loving to do. And then in some other stories, the Orlando Valkyries, they swept the Omaha Supernovas 3. It was 3-0, and it was surprising. Both these teams, they were 1-2. Well, Omaha was 1 at first, and Orlando was 2. But then Orlando, they swept them. They won 26-24 in sets, so 1 and 3, and no sets were competitive. In set 2, Orlando just took over, and Orlando has a great team. Brittany, she's been going crazy these last few weeks. And then Natalie Foster, she's one of the best closers in the league. She's really amazing. So I think that Orlando, now that they're jumped up to first and they're 9-4 in the they're 9-4 now and they're in first, and Omaha's 8-4 and they fell to second. Orlando, it's gonna be hard to stop this team when it comes playoff time. And there's still plenty of season left. It's only 12, 13 games in the 28-game season. But I think Orlando stays pace. I think Orlando is going to finish as a top 2 seed. I can see it. It's hard for me to see this team not staying in the top 2 seeds. I'd be surprised if they fall to 3 or 4. And I'd definitely be shocked if they fell out the playoffs. But now this team is amazing. I think Orlando, the Orlando Valkyries, they're going to make a run in the Pro Volleyball Federation. And then, like I said, Omaha, they're at 2 right now. in the Pro Volleyball Federation. There was a bad loss being swept against the team they're fighting against for the first seed in the league. So that is a bad loss, but I think they'll be able to bounce back from it. And then you have the India Ignite and Vegas Rio. They're both 7-5, tied for 3-4. But the India Ignite had the advantage right now because they're 27-21 in their sets, while Vegas is 24-25 in sets. Somehow they're both 7-5, but Indy they had a tiebreaker because they have more set wins and less set losses. So it's going to be interesting. And those are the 4 teams in the playoffs. The 4 teams on the outside looking in, you got the Atlanta Vibe, who are 6-7. And like I said, they average a lot of sets per game. Then you have a 3-way tie at the bottom between the Columbus Fury, Grand Rapids Rise, and San Diego Mojo. Were all 4-8. But the Columbus Fury on a 3-game winning streak, and they've been hot recently. So like it's gonna be hard to stop the Columbus Fury. Like I think they started the season slow. They started 1-8. They were 0-7, finally won a game, then lost again, and went to 1-8. But they didn't won 3 games in a row now. They're 4-8. They can make a push to the playoffs. They still got to catch the Vibe first to get ahead of them. Then they're gonna have to try to catch the Spreel and India Ignite, or just catch one of them to get into that 4th spot for the playoffs. But Columbus has been rolling lately, and it's because of Isabella. It's because of Isabella Rapox. She led the Fury to a 3-0 week in week 7. But like I said, she played all 12 sets that were in. She led in points in all 3 games. Led in kills versus Vegas and Atlanta. Had a season high 38.9 hitting percentage versus Atlanta. And had 19 kills versus Vegas. So it's like Isabella, she's been doing her thing, leading Columbus to some wins over the past week. And they've got hot at the right time. They moved up. They were last at first, but now they're in 6th. They're not last anymore out of the 8 teams. So that's cool. And then Akura Lewis for the Vibe. She has a 50.3 kill percentage right now, which is leading the league. So that's really impressive. But yeah, and that's it for the Pro Volleyball Federation. Let's talk about some stuff going on in that league. It's been fun seeing them make history their 2nd season. So definitely, like I said, a lot more volleyball coverage coming. But next, talk about some wrestling. In the month of February, I did this last month for January. I gave out awards based off the month in January. So I'm gonna be giving out wrestling awards based off the month of February. For the return of the month, I give it to the Street Profits returning at the Royal Rumble. It was a really solid return. Them messing up the tag team match for the Motor City Machine Guns, and the story that the tag team division on SmackDown has been telling. I've been enjoying it. So shout out to the Street Profits. But another return I thought about was Jazz returning to TNA in the Battle Royal. It was just a one-off appearance, but it was a cool moment. That was dope. It wasn't expected at all. But those 2 were definitely 2 of the top returns in the month of February. For the best match of February, had to go with Leah Morgan and Raquel beating Bianca and Naomi for the tag titles. It was a really fun match. It was a great way to end Raw. It was a great main event. It was great to see 4 women getting the main event spotlight on Raw. So that was a really fun match. But Hikaru Gatu beating Zack Sabre Jr. for the IWGP Heavyweight title. That was a fun one. That was my match of the month for February until Bianca and Naomi had that match against Liv and Raquel. Zack Sabre Jr. and Hikaru Gatu, what they were doing, that was one of my favorite matches. I think I rewatched that match too. And then the Women's Royal Rumble was a really fun match last month. Charlotte winning the Royal Rumble. Wasn't the biggest fan of the decision, but I wasn't too mad at it either. I liked the match. It was fun. The surprise of last month, I had to go with Hikaru Gatu beating Zack Sabre Jr. He was on a 17-year quest to finally win the IWGP World title, and he was able to do it. I mean, It was unexpected. Like I said, it was a surprise. Ricky Saints come to WWE. We had been hearing rumors about it, but then once it finally happened and it set in, it was like, wow, he's really in WWE now, and it's been rumored for so long. Then the Cologne showing up in TNA, and that's because I forgot that they still wrestle. So that's why that was such a big surprise to me. The Colognes coming back. I would say the best segment of last month was on February 2nd. No, February 4th with Julia, Roxanne, Bailey, and Charlotte. They did a promo segment building up the triple threat with Julia, Roxanne, and Bailey before Day was added to make it a fatal four-way, and Charlotte still hadn't chosen her opponent yet for WrestleMania. So that was a really good segment. I enjoyed that. Also considered the February 7th with Jimmy Uso, Drew McIntyre, LA Knight before their qualifying match for Elimination Chamber. And it was a really good segment. Like all three of them did their thing on the mic, cutting really good promos. So shout out to all three of them. For the rookie of the month, this once again had to go to Penta for February for what he's been doing in WWE. But yeah, like putting on great matches with Ludwig Kaiser and Pete Dunne, like the three-way feud, they're telling me it's been really good. And like I said, for rookies, I'm considering they're in a new company or they haven't been doing it that long. Like I also have Leon Slater from TNA at second place because he's been doing it since October. So he's still relatively new to TNA and new to like a big professional wrestling shade. So both of them are in consideration once again, but Penta, his match has just been better. I've enjoyed his story better. That's why I went with him instead of Leon Slater once again. For the best pay-per-view of February, I had to the New Beginning in Osaka. I gave that an 8 out of 10 for New Japan. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I gave a New Beginning in Osaka 8 out of 10 for New Japan. Zack Sabre Jr. and Hikaru Gatu fun, amazing match. One of the best I've seen. Sachi Naito and Hikaru Takashi beating the Young Bucks for the tag titles. That was fun. And the only reason why it was just an 8 out of 10 is because it felt long and it wasn't any women's matches. But that pay-per-view, the match quality was really great. The storytelling was good. And I enjoyed it more than I did with Vengeance Day or the Royal Rumble. I think the Royal Rumble I gave it 6 out of 10. Vengeance Day I gave it 7 out of 10. But the New Beginning in Osaka, I gave that an 8 out of 10. It was a fun pay-per-view. It was the best one in February. The best pay-per-view of the year is still New Japan's Pro Battle in the Valley, which that's at 8.5 out of 10. And we'll see what Elimination Chamber can do. If that is surpassed, that's the pay-per-view of the year so far. It might not, but we'll see. But that's what. But yeah, that's like I said, the New Beginning in Osaka. Love that pay-per-view. As far as MIP, Most Improved, definitely Harley Cameron. Like, it's no other candidates for this award this month. Harley Cameron has been amazing. I'm enjoying what she's been doing with Mercedes, the stuff she's doing with Ty Valkyrie and Deonna Purrazzo now. A shout out to Harley Cameron. She's really entertaining and she can go and not say she can go like she can hang with the best of the best, but she did hang with Mercedes, who's one of the best all time. And I think with a little bit more experience and some more promo work and stuff, she's definitely going to be a mid-card champion at some point in AEW. I can see her winning the TBS title. She's not going to take it off Mercedes, but shout out to Harley Cameron because she's doing her thing. Tag team of February, I gave it to the Hardy Boys, or the Hard Boys, as Santino likes to say. But I think the Hardy Boys had a really good match, had a really good month. Their story with the system has been really good. It makes sense with them because they're already in the story. You know, the other people getting added into it, I don't like. But the Hardys, Jeff Hardy pinning Moose multiple times. The Hardys coming on to NXT, having a solid match with no part of Catch Crew. Just them being flexible with them having who did they beat? They beat the Rascals. That was a fun match. Shout out to the Hardy Boys for what they did. And well, I think that match was in January. But they've been having a really good year overall too. But this month, the Hardys, they were great. And second place, I would say Frasium. And then they're going to run this match too, Frasium and Hardy soon. So the best tag teams in February are going to have a match in March. So we're going to see how that goes. Now, as far as best weekly TV show, NXT, like 8.5 out of 10 on an average basis for NXT. The storytelling is really good. The match quality is great. The promo segments are pretty solid. You have people improving like Kalani Jordan, Jada Parker, they're improving. You're exploring new characters and it actually makes sense. Obafemi is dominating. You have TNA and NXT working together. So like all those things make NXT so good. Then there's a good balance of you get a lot of women's matches. You might not get as many men's matches, but the men's still tell good stories. Like the family and Sean Spears group, like that's a good story going on. Lexus King has done a good job transitioning back into a heel. He went on this fake babyface run trying to be different, but then it's like, oh, he's a natural heel, and it makes sense that he transitioned back into it because he never changed. So it's like NXT has been amazing, and it was amazing in the month of February. I hope they keep it up. Then for runner-ups for weekly TV, I went with Dynamite. That had an average rating of 7.6 for me because I think Dynamite has been really good. Well, it's been good. It hasn't been as good as NXT. No show has. NXT, they like it. But Dynamite, even Collision, I gave it 7.5 because the quality has really picked up. Like once they did Grand Slam on that Saturday, because that's technically what Collision was, it was just a TV special. Like that really helped pick it up. Then even last week, like the match that Chris Jericho and Bandito had, that was fun. The stories are starting to make more sense now, transitioning from Collision to Dynamite. You have good storytelling. The storytelling has gotten better. Like AEW is improving on a week-to-week basis, and I'm enjoying it. And then top promotion, I'd say it's AEW. I think they had the best month for any company. New Japan, WWE, TNA. I think AEW had the best month in February for any company. They didn't have a pay-per-view. They had a TV special Grand Slam. But the weekly TV, it was a good night in, night out on a consistent basis. You finally started putting MJF and Heyman in the meaningful feud against each other, and they cut some good promo segments. So it's like this is starting to make a lot of sense. Like things are adding up. Chris Jericho, he's showing that he still got it. Swerve and Ricochet's character is getting better. So it's like it's a lot of good went on in AEW last month. The rise of Harley Cameron, Megan Bayne making her debut and even beating Chris Statlander, not Julia Hart, what's her name? Thunder Rosa. We won't talk about that, but AEW had a really great month in February. I'm trying to see what awards did I not cover. For female, I'm gonna cover a feud of the month last because there's a lot of good feuds in February. For female, the female as wrestler, women's wrestler of February, I'll go with Bianca Belair. Wrestling each week on TV really hurt. And there's a few people in WWE like Bianca, Liv, Naomi, like they're always Bailey. They're always wrestling, been wrestling consistently. But shout out Bianca. Didn't want to choose 8 different people. But shout out Bianca Belair. I think she had the best month in any female last month. And I think that can continue this month if she wins the Elimination Chamber. And then Toni Storm, I like this. Toni Storm, I'm have to get into as well. Toni Storm and Bianca Belair, I'm gonna have to get into for the Feud of the Year award because both of the feuds they had going on were really good. So, but Toni Storm will be a runner-up. Now I think Masha Slamovich had a good month too. I think she was pretty solid last month. As far as male superstar February goes, I just go with Moose. It was hard to really pinpoint because I think there was a lot of good tag team action and a lot of good women's wrestling in the month of February. But as far as the men go, I think what Moose is doing on TNA and NXT, I think it's been really great. Then for MVP of February, it's between Will Ospreay or Bianca Belair. I go with Ospreay, but Bianca Belair, like I said, she had a really good month. Ospreay did too. And then, like I said, I do feud of the month last for February. But the stuff they're doing with Hangman and MJF, that's been amazing in AEW. And they haven't even had their match yet. Like, it's just been backstage run-ins, then a few promo segments, then the beatdown of Christopher Daniels. Like, they did a great job building up this feud. And their match is going to be a banger at Revolution. I can't wait for that. Toni Storm versus Mariah May. That's their feud concludes at Revolution with the trilogy ending. I love the way they built that up, having Tony Storm come out dressed as Mariah May. Like that's crazy. They've done a great job with it too. Mariah May and Tony Storm, they're now 1-1. It's like this has dragged on since All In last year, and it's going to conclude this month or next weekend at Revolution. Then the Don Callis family versus Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. That's been fun as well. And these are all feuds. I was like, wow, it's hard to really pick one of which one was the best one of February. Because then you had Bianca and Naomi versus Liv and Raquel. It's like I don't like the idea of them attacking Jade, but they did a great job building up the rivalry between the four women and them having the tag team matches and the different interactions they had, making Raquel not be able to qualify for Elimination Chamber. Like that's amazing. And even Spitfire versus the Elegance brand, like what they did in TNA, like that shows you how to build a tag team feud with women's wrestling. And now that they're their personal Elegance is Spitfire's personal concierge, like that's crazy. And they both their matches were pretty solid too for the tag titles. But shout out to all four of them for playing their roles really well in that feud. And the dude that built the Elegance brand, I forget his name, but he's pretty entertaining. So shout out to him too. Those are my wrestling awards for the month of February. Like I said, each month I'm gonna give my wrestling awards, and at the end of the year I'm gonna do a big award show to determine who is the MVP, Rookie of the Year, etc., for between WWE, AEW, New Japan, and TNA. Because I'm watching all four companies, keeping up with all four of them, and it's been some solid action with some solid stories. We're gonna have some more content for all four coming soon. But we're almost at the end of the podcast. Gonna wrap it up with athletes of the week for the Pro Volleyball Federation. As I said earlier, Isabella Rapox led the Fury to a 3-0 record in Week 7. She played in all 12 sets. She led in points in all 3 games. Led in kills versus Vegas and Atlanta. Had a season 8 38.9 hitting percentage versus Atlanta. Had 19 kills versus Vegas. Had a really good week. Fury on the 3-0 win streak, a 3-game win streak because of her. But it's a whole team effort. Like this team has really stepped up. They've won 4 of their last 5. So shout out to the Columbus Fury entire team. For WWE, I ended up going with LA Knight. Him having 2 matches on the same SmackDown was really impressive. At SmackDown, of course, they put on a bang up show last night. As soon as I want to make a video about SmackDown, stay tuned for that. But yeah, WWE, I went with LA Knight beating Santos in a fun match. Even though it was fainted plenty of times, it was still a fun match. They have good in-ring chemistry. Then he defeated Jacob Fatu and Carmelo Hayes in a triple threat match to end the show. Not to end it, but that was their main event match, the last match of the show. Obviously, to become the number 1 contender. Shinsuke Nakamura, his brother, passed away, so RIP to him. So obviously, had to do something to fill the time since none of the top stars would be wrestling, and you couldn't have a match with Shinsuke and LA Knight because he's probably taking a week or 2 off to mourn the death of his brother. For AEW, I ended up going with Takeshita. The match he had with Orange Cassidy to end Dynamite was really fun. Like I seen Takeshita was doing some moves I ain't never seen him do before. He was feeling different in that match. So shout out to Takeshita for winning that and beating Orange Cassidy to retain the title. And now we know we're getting Takeshita versus Kenny Omega. We knew that as soon as it was announced. Like no matter what happened between Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong, they weren't beating Takeshita for that title. For TNA, I went with Spitfire. They defeated the Elegance brand in a fun tag team match on Impact. Even though Impact wasn't great, I didn't enjoy Impact at all this week, but that was a fun match. For the NBA, I had to go with Steph. He had 30 points, 7 assists, and 4 rebounds on 12 of 20 shooting, 3 of 8 3-point shooting, and 3 of 3 from the free throw line against Dallas. Only had 15 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds, shooting 6 of 14 from the field, 2 of 9 from 3, and made 1 of his 1 free throw attempts against Charlotte. But they didn't have to do too much in that game because they dominated. In the game against Dallas, he was great. He was phenomenal in that game. And Klay Thompson didn't get no revenge that time. And then he just had 56 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds, and 2 steals, shooting 16 of 25 from the field, 12 of 19 from 3, 12 of 12 free throws, beating Orlando Magic. The Warriors went 3-0 this week, led behind Steph's incredible performances. So shout out to Steph Curry. He's late 30s, still got it, still one of them ones. Shout out to Steph. For the NHL, I'm with Matthew Kynes. For the Maple Leafs, they had wins against the Blackhawks, the Bruins, and Rangers all this week. He had one save each game. He had one goal in total, one assist in total, 2 points total. He had a +1 in one game and +3 in one game. And I went with Matthew Kynes because his overall impact, his numbers aren't the most impressive, but his impact overall in the games that they had this week, being able to help the Maple Leafs get some wins when they've been struggling this year. So that's why I went with Matthew Kynes based off the impact. These are impact based stats. More, I mean, watching the games, he had a huge impact on those wins they had this week. And then for New Japan Pro, I went with Titan and Kamechi. They had a tag team match at CMLL Fantastic Mania. They won a tag team match on night 1. In night 2, they won an 8-man tag team match. Both solid matches. So shout out to both of them for that. But yeah, that's going to end it. I got some stuff planned for this weekend. Got a few videos planned, so make sure y'all stay tuned. That's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Weekly Sports Talk with Ed, episode 35. If you're catching the replay, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below what you thought about anything I talked about today. But that's going to conclude this episode of the podcast. Peace.